There's my mom. I'm going to go ahead and slide it over my grandpa and my grandma. And here is 3 more people. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Would you demand 100% perfection out of any school child? Would you even think it's possible? Unfortunately, that's exactly what the new No Child Left Behind policy does to our students. So what I'm going to talk about today is why the United States government should drastically modify the No Child Left Behind policy. There are 3 main problems with No Child Left Behind. Number 1 is that it doesn't account for students with learning language deficiency. Number 2 is that it doesn't allow struggling school districts to attract new and well-educated teachers. And 3, it doesn't allow schools to have the funding to provide extra services to their students. And so to kind of expand on those 3 main points is that No Child Left Behind doesn't account for students with learning language proficiency. So on the standardized tests that the schools use to gauge the level at which their students are performing, are mainly focused on content, or that's what the main purpose of the test should be. So in the subjects such as math and science, the focus should be on whether or not the student understands the content and not whether or not the student has the language proficiency to understand the directions. And so the problem that is left with students who speak English as a second language or are struggling still to learn English is that they might not understand the directions of the test, and so they perform poorly on sections such as math and science, even though they might understand well the content that they're being tested over. This is especially a problem in struggling school districts with a high minority percentage of students, that a lot of students speak another language at home besides English, and they're still struggling to learn at school. The second main problem is that No Child Left Behind doesn't allow for these struggling school districts to attract better, more educated teachers to improve their district. The funding cuts that No Child Left Behind imposes on the schools creates a deficit, and it makes it almost impossible for them to attract new teachers. New teachers are much more likely, or college-educated teachers, are much more likely to go to a school district where they would be able to attract a higher salary. And thirdly, the No Child Left Behind funding cuts to schools don't allow schools to provide extra services to their students, such as after-school math and reading tutoring. If you don't have the funding to provide that, you can't give it to your students, and they won't be able to improve, or students that need that extra help won't be able to get it. And so these struggling school districts that are struggling to meet the standards are the ones that need that extra bit in their budget the most. So those are the 3 main problems with No Child Left Behind. So how are we going to improve this? Well, by restructuring the general format of the standardized testing, and by decreasing the funding cuts as a penalty to school districts that aren't meeting the standards, we can allow these schools to provide a means of improving themselves and have a better chance of actually meeting the standards set by the government. So by doing that, So in order to do this, we could restructure the standardized tests to mainly focus on content, especially in the subjects of math and science, where a learning language proficiency would be especially detrimental to a student's test scores. And we could provide government incentives for new college-educated teachers to work in these struggling school districts and stay there long-term and help them improve their overall curriculum. And we could also provide funding for struggling school districts to provide after-school help for any students that need extra assistance in math or reading or science. And all of this kind of ties in with lessening the budget cuts or the budget penalties that are imposed on schools for not meeting the standards set by No Child Left Behind. Let's see here. So if you'd like to see a change in the No Child Left Behind policies, you can visit the Kansas School of Education's website, and you can send an email to your school district or just voice in any way how you kind of disagree with this policy. And so just to wrap up in a final conclusion, that No Child Left Behind doesn't allow school districts to have the means of which to improve themselves, and it doesn't allow for school districts to, or it especially hurts school districts with a high percentage of minority students that might be language learning deficient and might need a little bit of extra help after school with reading or math.